Hey, good morning, all. Welcome to the Common Good Podcast. It's Tuesday, July 5th, and this time I didn't have to look down at my calendar on my computer because I know it's July 5th because it's my birthday. And
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Doug.
Happy birthday, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. I'm over here just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm walking today. I'm spending the day propelling myself the number of miles for my years. So I'm 56 years old. I'm going to be walking 28 miles and riding 28 miles intermittently throughout the day. That's why I'm dressed like this, and that's why I'm outside, and that's why it's all jittery from my end. But Rob and Dan holding down the fort appropriately, as they should. And hey, it's a week of unusual live streams coming out of us, so we'll do our chit-chat here in a minute. But I just want to remind all of you that Thursday, we are going to start live streaming at high noon Eastern time. It's 11 a.m. where I live. You know, that's 9 a.m. for those of you, Jim, over on the West Coast. But we're going to start at high noon Eastern time and live stream all day long until midnight Eastern time. So we're calling the Common Goodathon. Having a bunch of guests on, people telling us about what good they're up to in the world, why it matters, how you can be part of it. So baby Thursday, and it's the middle of our fund drive, like, your local NPR radio station, but rather than us not letting you hear the normal things, we're giving you a little extra. So we're trying to raise enough money to meet a financial match that somebody's given, $50,000. We're 23% of the way there now. The deadline is July 15th. So, all right, so that's happening on Thursday. But for now, we'll tell you about today. Rob, how are things there outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas?
Things are good. You know, we got our first rainstorm in over a month on July 3rd, which was really nice and good for the flowers in the garden. And then we spent a really nice 4th of July. We went and picked some berries. We picked some blueberries and some blackberries. And the blackberries are like Chernobyl-sized blackberries. It makes me a little bit worried about kind of what radiation they were exposed to, but I mean, just gigantic blackberries. And then we went and played in the creek. Went to the White River and swam in the river and hung out. Had a great time. The inside of the car now smells like a river, and then we had a nice dinner and shot off some fireworks and enjoyed watching our neighbors shoot off fireworks. Which, growing up in Ohio, that was not a thing. Fireworks are not legal in Ohio. It's not a thing. And so it wasn't until I moved here to Arkansas that I ever, lit off fireworks. And so we didn't do a lot last night. I did almost blow everything up because I had a little bit of a malfunction with the fireworks, but luckily all my fingers are still here and the ringing in my ears stopped after a minute or two. So all's good.
Well, excellent. A lot of people are really feeling this 4th of July, right? There were a lot of people saying, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. It's the way I felt in, July 4th of 2017, after Donald Trump was elected president. It was
19,
terrifying.
20.
Yeah, since then. I saw a Florida city, and now I don't remember which it was, like Orlando, or it wasn't Orlando, had to put out an apology because they sent an email newsletter out talking about, their 4th of July festivities. And in it was the statement, hey, I know a lot of people are not wanting to celebrate the 4th of July because of all the division in the country, but we're kind of doing it anyway. Did you see this news story?
No, they had to apologize for that?
Yeah, because of course people were like, the 4th of July is about, veterans and other stuff. But it sort of struck me that, going into the 4th, a lot of people feel like, wow, freedoms are constitutional rights and stuff have been readjusted. The Supreme Court seems to have upended so many things, just more lack of trust in our institutions. Yeah. And then those terrible shootings last night.
Oh.
There was one in um, just outside of Chicago, and people were killed. And same old routine, another
Hmm.
young male with a rifle just killing people, and just goes on the long tragic list of all the situations where we can say in this country seems to be no situation where people are safe, and it's going to shock the conscience of the gun culture in this country. Now you can just add Fourth of July parades.
Yeah.
And Michael Waters, who I respect a lot, had a little Facebook post
Yeah.
yesterday that said, "Hmm,
I shared it.
maybe the problem is that there weren't, what was it? Maybe the problem is that there,
There weren't like
well,
the parade only needs to have one door. Yeah. They're
yeah, yeah, yeah. The problem wasn't that there weren't too many exits or too many entrances or something, just poking
yeah.
holes in all the
Yeah.
rationale. So, you come out of the 4th of July, which is for a lot of people sort of halfway in the year, feeling like, you want to celebrate the summer, think about who we are as a nation. And unfortunately, a grim reminder uh, of all that, and just terrible. Um,
Yeah. And
so, but,
it
I don't know. I
feels.
think,
Yeah, it feels inescapable, It feels inevitable and inescapable. And there's the 4th of July is one of those holidays that like so many holidays are. They're fundamentally escapist, They give us which we need. That's not I don't say that pejoratively or negatively at all. It gives us the opportunity to do something different, to change the rhythm, to have a little
yeah,
break, take a holiday, take a vacation from what life normally is. And to have this kind of violence kind of
mhm,
interfere, like the tragedy of the 6 lives that were lost, and this community is just, it's traumatic. And there are folks that will never recover from the trauma that they experienced yesterday. But just broadly, for us as a country, it was just like a shocking reminder that we can't, well, like, we don't take breaks from this, we can't escape from this. It is
that's right. Yeah,
inescapable and inevitable that this kind of violence is gonna invade everything, and has invaded everything. Everything we thought
hmm,
safe, everything we thought sacred, school, classrooms, churches, homes, businesses, grocery stores, parades. Like, there
yep,
nothing is safe. And that's a
yeah,
horribly grim reminder to have on what's supposed to be, fireworks and
yeah.
hot dogs.
Yeah, that's a good point. That it's meant to be escapist because truthfully, none of those places have been all that safe,
Yeah.
all along.
Yeah.
But we wanna lean into a more better union if we can,
Mhm.
and and this is the kind of stuff that's gonna impact politics. We try to
Yeah.
talk about the political side of things, and man, so much has shaken the foundations of our politics in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Um, I know polling is out there that says that maybe Republicans' chance of regaining control of the House and the Senate is not as strong as it once was, and there's a
Mhm.
cross current of issues that are landing. Uh, I think it's getting very interesting, right? So, are people in the
Mhm.
United States going to care about inflation caused by COVID and by COVID response? Are they going to care about gas prices? Are they going to vote for the
Mhm.
president based on gas prices? I'm sorry, are they going to vote for Congress based on the president's response to gas prices? I sure hope not.
Mhm.
Because there's so many other really big issues. I'll tell you, Rob, I have just found myself feeling like this Supreme Court's behavior is
Yeah.
going to be the serious uh, political issue in November. Now,
Yeah.
having said that, I got my hair cut the other day, and the hairstylist that I've had a couple of times. I go to Great Clips where you can walk
Yeah.
right in and sit right down, and they really care about your hair. And I
Yeah.
did that. Walked right in, sat right down, and my hairstylist, she started right into like, I'm not feeling much about the fourth, with all this stuff going on. So I started telling her what we do. I said we try to help faith voters stop voting for people like Donald Trump. And she drops her hands and looks me in the mirror and looks me in the eye through the mirror and just says, "Boy, you got your work cut out for you." And I said, "Yeah, we all do."
Yeah.
And then she went, on and on about just how she's feeling, and very deeply informed. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just a little surprised. Like, she had a level of knowledge of the players and the implications and what this should mean and how we could motivate people. And I thought, all right, because sometimes I think, oh, is it only those of us that nerd out in a very small world?
Yeah.
But it was kind of refreshing that she was tapped in and caring about it. And it certainly was abortion for her,
Mm.
and the fact that this right that had been enshrined in the U.S. Constitution now is only enshrined in some state constitutions
Yep.
as a right. Um, but it was also the other things, and I feel like what the Supreme Court did by showing its hand and switching its commitment to judicial theory
Yep.
is breaking through. I think people are going to see that and they're going to be like,
Yep.
so states can't control guns, but they can control access to abortion.
Yeah.
States can determine, you know, uh, they can't determine environmental law, but they can, give freedom for people to act in religious ways while still on school property. Like, I think people are seeing it. And so I bounce back and forth on a day after the 4th of July thinking, do people know and care about any of this stuff? And I'm even just talking myself into it. But I think people do care. And I think it's going to motivate a whole crowd um, to not want the Republican Party to be rewarded and
Yeah.
emboldened. Now, whether that happens in the districts that we know matter to control
Yep.
the House of Representatives, I don't know,
Right.
but I certainly think it's going to in the Senate. I think the Senate is. I think Democrats are going to add seats in the Senate. You know,
Yep.
and I think that's gonna have some implications of its own.
Yeah. Yeah. That you've heard me say for a long time now that I've thought that the only chance that Democrats have in the midterm was if Roe was overturned. Um, and not that I didn't want that to be the case, but I have felt that for a long time that there's no enthusiasm about Joe Biden and his presidency. Um, Democratic voters are not excited, and we're not poised to turn out well. And then you layer on top of that kind of general malaise, you layer on top of that, inflation and gas prices and like the very real reality that it's just more expensive to live in America right now. And for
Yep.
good or for ill, people pin that on the president. That classic Ronald Reagan question of "Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?" That is, used to determine, if a president is going to get reelected. Um, that's not a question that currently goes in Joe Biden's favor for
Yeah.
most folks. And so, but then the Roe decision, coupled with all of the other decisions that were just shockingly came out of the Supreme Court. And then when you tie that into the January 6th commission and you see that
Yeah.
this that this disturbing Supreme Court situation is directly tied to the lawlessness of the Trump administration and the Republican Party that enabled him. Um, And I think so. We're at a real crossroads of, what's going to be the key motivator. What's actually going to work in turning people out? Where's the enthusiasm going to be? Is it going to be around, we've got to punish Republicans for the Supreme Court and Trump, or do we have to punish Democrats for inflation and gas prices? And we don't know yet which it's going to be, but it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, this we should get our economists back on to tell us what they now understand or are thinking about inflation. A little
Yeah.
anecdote about just about this time every year, we cut down some limbs of trees in our yard, sort of clean it all up because they always grow back and look horrible. So I ended up with this big pile. And last couple of years, I've reached out to some people that pick up branches and junk and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
see if they come pick it up. And so I messaged a couple of people that I've used in past years, and they got back to me yesterday, and one of them said, "Well, it's going to be $360 to pick it up, and it was $250 last year." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to kind of keep looking around for 250. That's all I want to spend on this. All it seems like it's worth it." And yeah, right back. Okay, I understand. He goes, um, maybe when inflation is done, we can sort of get back to normal pricing. Like, okay, I said amen to that. And then a few minutes later, I got a message back from another person that was done some work similar and charged me $250. And he said it's going to be $260 this year. Things are a little more expensive, and that made sense to me, right? The
A
it's
little
going to
more
go up
expensive.
by $10. It's going to cost me more in fuel. It's going to, the guy who's like, it's going to cost you $110. It's going to be what is that, 50%,
Mm-hmm.
40% increase. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's not just inflation. So I don't know. We're in this spiral, and I'm not blaming the guy. Look, if the guy can get 360 for it, great. Hope he does. And I didn't want to pay it. It just seems like that's happening. You brought that up around gas price tax holiday, that we'd have to figure out a way to be sure that the oil companies aren't getting the profits. But we've ended up in a spiral here where I
Yep.
think people are like, hold on a minute. I understand that shipping costs might be a little higher, but this just seems like there's some out of control
Yep.
things going on. And I don't know, maybe now I feel like issues of it's too expensive in America right now, that's now baked in. I think by the time you get to
Yeah.
July 4th weekend, uh, that's set in people's minds. Even if inflation drops considerably, that's
Right.
just in people's psyche.
Yep. Yep.
So I think that's probably settled for in the political sense. Now, not in the boy, it'd be great if gas prices came down and if tree rubbish haulers could not have to have a 50% increase in their rates. Um,
Yeah.
you just sort of wonder, is somebody doing well? Of course, the wealthy always do well. They do well in every set of conditions. The system is set up to be sure they do. But that's it's going to be interesting to see where people put that energy, you know,
Yeah.
and what motivates people more so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, I do
And
think
yeah.
I was surprised to see a news story the other day that one of the Fox News hosts, a guy named like Brian, I think it's Brian. He's on the morning show over there, Brian Kemline or Kremlin. He's a
Killamine.
dark-haired guy. Killamine.
Yeah.
He's out on a whole. Donald Trump is really hurting this country with the big lie. He has to stop it. People lose. It's time to grow up. Just if you really thought you won and you couldn't prove it, then you just got to incorporate that into your life and move on. Stop dragging everybody back. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels to me, I don't know if that's coming just from the January 6th commission, but I think more people are feeling that way about
Mm-hmm.
politics. And as much as, inflation gets tagged to the president, I think behavior of Donald Trump is going to be assigned for some people, enough people, I hope, to Senate races and congressional races around the country. I do think it's. I think he's. I sure hope he runs. You've been saying that you thought he was going to announce very early to try to mitigate his legal exposure. I sure hope he does. I hope he comes out at the end of this month and says, I'm running for president, so that Donald Trump is on the ballot in people's minds come November 8th.
Yeah. Well, the only problem with that is he could win. It's if he's on the it's the Jimmy Valvano North Carolina State, I think it was 1983, their NCAA tournament win. And he was asked, what do you guys have a chance of winning this championship? And he said, who doesn't have a chance of winning the championship? North Carolina, UCLA. And he named off a bunch of teams. He said, they don't have a chance of winning because they're not in the game. We're in the game. And so, of course, we have a chance.
That's
and then
true.
They ended up winning. So I think I would prefer that there be no chance that Donald Trump be reelected president. I would prefer he not be the Republican nominee, because if he is, there's a chance he could win. And I really don't want that.
That's I guess that's the devil's bargain that we're all, those of us care about this stuff, we're trying to figure out in our minds right now. Truth be told, what we think about it has no impact. I mean, unless you're sort of into your your general energy transmission and a little Abraham Hicks or something. Like we're going to manifest this into reality, but short of that.
Yeah, we're going to try. What could happen would be, if he runs and doesn't get the Republican nomination and is repudiated, has already been repudiated by the country. It would be great to see him repudiated by his own party.
Yeah, that would be great. And look, I mean, yes, okay, you're right. Generally speaking, anybody who's on the ballot could win. But we all know that, every time you go to a presidential election, there's a long list of people that are on the ballot. None of them are going to win. This guy is such a loser. He's lost everything except that one election in 2016. And yet we still, I know that, look, it's like, he's such a detriment that any possibility would just be terrible. If Donald Trump, after his failed presidency, then his behavior around January 6th and his continued behavior around Stop the Steal, and all of the people who were with him then that are saying now they don't think he should run and are turning on him, if he can still pull off a win, well, God bless America,
Yeah.
I mean, he barely pulled it out running against a candidate that turned out to be, the most, not the second most divisive candidate in presidential history in Hillary Clinton, but turns out to be the most. And he barely squeaked that one out when there were people like, I just want to give the guy a chance. Now, I know it got closer in 2020 than it should have as an incumbent, but he couldn't win as an incumbent, against, as he put it, a guy in his basement. So I just hope that the Republicans continue to collapse under the weight of MAGA, because they still have not come to their senses. Kellyanne Conway is still out saying all of her stuff, and Chris Christie is still babbling on about Republicanism. So I think the country needs to look at the guy again and reject him again. I hope it's not only Republicans that have a chance to say this guy's got to go. I hope it's all of us. But hey, we're gonna have a bunch of candidates on with us on Thursday.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense about? I haven't really followed state legislatures close enough to know if any of the important legislatures around significant issues of immigration, guns, abortion are really up for grabs. Do you know if any of those
places
are up for grabs?
Yeah. Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona are three critical states that the state legislatures are up for grabs, so to speak. And then there's states like Kansas and Arkansas that Republicans currently have a supermajority, which allows them to, you know, govern with impunity. And so, you know, the kind of the first step in those states is breaking that supermajority so that Republican legislators at the very least um, have to bring Democrats back to the table. So, yeah, there are state races all over the country that are absolutely critical, and here's why that is important. I don't. Did you see, Doug, the news that the Supreme Court is going to be hearing another case related to the language of the Constitution and the role of state legislatures in essentially setting election law for their state um, that
Yeah.
governs federal elections. Basically, there's a strict constructionist fundamentalist reading of the Constitution, which says that state legislatures can set the rules for federal elections in their state, which would be
Yep.
president, Congress, Senate, um, and they have sole authority to do that. And so, you know, basically not reviewable by the courts. The courts basically, the Supreme Court could basically give all power and control over to state legislatures um, to make these decisions without any kind of check or balance or oversight. And the problem with that is when you think about the issues we have with our system, with voting rights, gerrymandering, mail-in ballots, access to polling places, just generally, should it be easy to vote or hard to vote? And then choosing electors. And we know that Republicans are willing to, you know, have a slate of fake electors, you know, forging, you know, official documents, pretending that they can, you know. So you get all of this, and then you realize that state legislatures, the same folks that are passing these just insane abortion laws, are the same ones that are going to have absolute control over, you know, how federal elections go and the outcome of them. And so you just it gives you great pause that, okay, what is happening in the Supreme Court is just beyond the pale of egregious. And
Mhm.
state legislatures, which are already the problem, are about to become even more powerful. And you know, it's a kind of a terrifying thing, which makes these state legislative races so critically important.
Okay, so I've been thinking a lot about this, but not enough to be real confident in the opinion I'm about to express.
Yeah,
But you know, let me workshop it here.
be loud wrong.
Um, uh, that's right. Uh, let's say um, who was the guy in Georgia that Trump was pressuring? Was he the attorney? Was he the attorney general of
Secretary
that
of
Trump
State.
called and said, "I need 11"? Secretary of State. Let's say that he had not had the moral fortitude to say no to the president and threw out a bunch of votes, called for a reelection, or that a judge, a three judge panel, threw out a bunch of votes. Some of us would be yelling, "We have to get the control out of the hands of one person, right? A Secretary of State or an Attorney General or a judge."
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Look, I don't know the details of the case. I've really come to distrust this Supreme Court. So it feels to me like anything they want, I would not want. I feel like, you know, I'm on that side of
Yeah.
opposition to them because I think they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. But sometimes, and I heard this on a podcast yesterday with Dan Pfeiffer, who used to be with the Obama administration, and John Heilman and
Yep.
Melissa Monasario. They were saying, oh, hey, the Supreme Court, which was appointed by, six of the members or something were appointed by presidents that didn't win the popular vote or this kind of thing. And so so we don't have democracy. Look, democracy is not only at the federal level.
Yeah.
Democracy is also at the state level. And it is democracy when a state legislature makes a decision. Now, I live in a state where I generally trust our state legislature. Even when it's been run by Republicans, they've tended to make decisions that have felt like they were somehow in the best interest of people. I think they've been wrong about that and so on. But generally speaking, I know a lot of people really don't trust their state legislatures.
Yeah, me.
But the core of democracy in America is supposed to be all of your elected representatives, not just the federal level.
Yeah.
So when a Supreme Court says, let's push this back to the states and let the state legislatures, not a career politician or a career service worker or somebody else make a decision. I don't know. I think it's hard to argue that that's not democracy. I think your point is very well taken. Hey, let's be really careful because some of these legislatures have been gerrymandered in a way that they don't feel representative. But state legislatures are made up of people who were elected in a broken gerrymandered system, yes. But I don't know what the alternative is. Like, I think about if the Supreme Court says that state legislatures can be the ones to decide election results, in both federal and presidential races. Well, that seems better to me than, I don't know,
Yeah,
somebody
but
else.
right.
Right.
Well,
So
I think I get that as kind of a philosophical idea and a thought experiment. I think the reality is that that what we're looking at is state legislatures that are going to change the rules to make sure that their side always wins. And there's kind of the philosophical, thing, and then the reality is that elections are going to become less and less free and fair, and that's going to be a problem for the future of democracy in the country. Yes, maybe they were democratically elected now, but at some point, do the rules get changed so much that the majority of Americans don't get what they voted for, and we've got some kind of minority rule situation. That I think that's the concern that folks have.
Sure. Well, yeah. Yeah, and minority rule and majority rule is a tough thing in the US, right? Like, what do
Yeah,
we mean by that? Like, every elected official is elected by less than 50% of all the people they represent. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, like, majority minority rule feels like, and it seems that this argument, though, that legislatures will do something, feels a little bit like the voter ID people saying, well, I know there's not any provable election fraud going on, but it just seems like people could do that. So we should make sure they have to have different ID to vote. And you say, well, why do we have to change? Well, because they could do it. I mean, I know people who would, but are they doing it? No,
yeah,
but they could. So, and when I hear people say the legislatures, could send up a false set of electors, they tried it. And you know who said no to it? The Michigan uh, legislature, the Wisconsin legislature, the Arizona legislature, Republicans in those legislatures, Michigan, they all said, no, we're not doing it. So I don't know. It feels like, oh, let's take that power out of the hands of legislatures because we could conjure up a narrative where a president wants to overturn an election and wants these people to be in the bag. He tried it. And even in the midst of the situation we're in now, it didn't work. So I could just, I don't know, it seems like we need to just, legislatures need to pass laws that make it impossible for there just to be capricious nonsense going on. But I guess I just hold out for democracy that I think we're better off when elected officials have to make some of these determinations. And I know I feel myself, I almost want to spit hearing words come out of my mouth, because this is the kind of stuff that the Supreme Court has been saying, like, let's not have an administrative state make these decisions, not the administrative people like the EPA and so on make decisions. So I'm not saying that, but it feels weird for people to say, like, we want to have voter support and get rid of voter suppression. We want more democracy, but let's not return the power to legislatures. Like, I wish we had a situation where the opinions of people in the United States were such that if the Supreme Court said you don't have a constitutional right to an abortion, but in 50 states it was made accessible because the legislatures there, passed laws that would be support. Like, win the argument, right? I don't know. It just seems like sometimes wanting to lean into, granted, that's different than a constitutional right. So we could have an argument whether it should be a constitutional right, because you don't wait for legislatures to pass laws about constitutional rights. But it feels like, I don't know, like a pro-democracy movement needs to, see what I'm saying? This isn't fully baked, but it seems like it
I
shouldn't
hear what
be
you're saying.
critiquing people who are trying to say, let's make sure represented officials are making these decisions. I don't know, it feels like we need a whole conversation in this country about this, because people who talk at the federal level, especially around the presidency, tend to think that only federal elections, and really only the election of the president, is the only democratic thing that we have. So, well, I hope this, look, 50 years ago, Roe versus Wade was passed. And then, in my feeling, we spent 5 decades in this country not thinking about the issues related to abortion, so that when 2022 came around, we were in exactly the same place we were in 1972. And that seems like a real lost opportunity to change people's hearts and minds. Because, in 1972, the majority of people, I think, in the US did not support the right of a woman to seek an abortion. So, you wouldn't have wanted the popular opinion to be setting the course back then. But I hope we don't spend the next 50 years not doing work on democracy and people understanding it, engaging in it. And look, you said it a bunch. I think this really matters. We should find a way to be part of this. To ever have seats that are not contested at the state level or the federal level is just it's an unpardonable sin in politics. You can't allow people to just run uncontested. And there's too many places in America where Democrats don't run. I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of places where Republicans don't run as well. I don't actually know that. I just know there's a lot of places where Democrats choose not to even put up a candidate. It's just remarkable. Because you're never going to win the argument if you're not even having the argument.
Yep, it's true. It's true. And, you have to give people a choice, for them to have a choice.
Hey, do you think it's possible that more people watched and set off fireworks last night and on July 3rd? Because where I live, I don't know, apparently people want to get a jump start on terrorizing animals, and they do it on July 3rd. So do you think more people watched and participated in fireworks the last 2 days than voted in the last election? I think that's possible.
So we had what, approximately 160 million people voted in the last election.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. It's possible. Did half the country?
Just to,
I mean, yeah.
yeah. I mean, maybe if you throw kids in there, you could win that. You know, you could win that.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm getting at? Like,
Yes, I
boy,
do.
if
Yep.
more people celebrate the freedom and then continue to tell ourselves, oh, you know why we're free? Because people with guns made us free. Just the biggest
Right.
lie in American folklore. You know, thank a service member for your freedom. Like, okay, maybe if you were in the Revolutionary War, you know, straight up, that could be the case. But I don't think you'd have to, you know,
Yep.
what makes us a free democracy is participation in our civic life. And one of the ways is by voting and other means of civic engagement, you know. So I sure hope that in all the voters' rights and legislatures having control or not, all this, that the notion of we the people, which, you know, is not only a great, you know, future documentary, uh, but is, I don't know, an admirable notion. All right, I'm going to be quiet for a minute because I'm walking under a very noisy bridge.
All right. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Well, there is, you know, as I always say, there's so much work to be done. And it feels like, you know, that work remains and is, you know, so varied. You know, there is enough for everybody to be involved and to do stuff. And you know, one of the ways that folks can do that is by joining us in our common goodathon that we're having on Thursday. And yeah, Doug, do you want to talk a little bit about that? What we're going to be doing on Thursday? Give folks a little
Yeah, we're going
preview
to
of
have
that.
for 12 hours straight, we're going to run live streams. In case you're wondering, they're going to start every hour at the top of the hour so you can refresh and give you a list of who's going to be involved. It'll be musicians, poets, candidates, elected officials, uh, actors, screenwriters, uh, your favorite Vote Common Good personalities. And we're trying to build a whole recognition of all the goodness that's going on because we not only want you to support our organization, and we'd love for you. There we go. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost attacked by a dog. What we won't do to bring you top notch, you know, podcasts and live streams of a guy walking and another man being reasonable sitting in his home office. Well, on Thursday, who knows what manner of this we're going to get. People are making us videos. People are coming on live. It's just going to be a potpourri all day long. So we'd love for you to share that out. Tap in with us as much as you can. If you can watch anywhere and you don't really care, do it over on our YouTube channel. It just helps us with
Yep.
lots of things over there in the YouTube ecosystem. But we'll put this out on all of our regular channels, which, by the way, Rob, does not include my Twitter profile any longer because as a
Yeah.
birthday gift to myself, I've deactivated my Twitter account. And they give you a setting in there to say, do you want 30 days before this becomes permanent or 12 months? So I said 12 months. I'll reconsider it within a year if I'm going to get back onto Elon Musk's
Oh, you just
social
know
network
that
or not.
in the lead up to July 5th, 2023, the daily emails you're going to be getting the end of June, beginning of July 2023 from Twitter. Are you sure? Are you sure? You've only got 4 more days to reactivate your account. You're going to be inundated.
I didn't know. Is that I mean, I've had my Twitter
I
account, I think,
don't
since 2007 or so. Is that a thing? They're gonna try to? they're gonna try to beckon me back. They're gonna apologize for their wayward ways and ask me to return to my future.
It wouldn't surprise me. Well, we'll have to try to remember this a year from now and have that conversation.
Yeah. Like, I mean, wouldn't that be great if I was like, look, I got off Twitter a year ago, haven't thought about it, not even going to get back on. It's just become intolerable. But in all the other places where you can follow Vote Common Good, and by the way, Vote Common Good will stay active on Twitter doing its, yeoman's work of goodness over there. It's just my own personal profile. I'm putting it to bed. Enough's enough. Had it. Fed up. Although I don't know those kinds of things. So, all right. Anything else from Dan, our esteemed producer? Anything else from you, Rob?
No. How many more miles you got to go, Doug?
I don't know. I've arrived home. I've gone 10 miles, 10.35 miles. So I have 18 more walking miles today and 28 biking miles. I haven't started biking at all yet. So
got to get on that bike.
Well, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take a little biking segment here for a while.
Excellent.
And by the way, you two also, having been people that bike, partway across the country, make sure you hop on your bikes today too.
I just might.
All right.
Good
July 5 activity.
Went for a little bike ride on Sunday with my dear wife.
Excellent.
Yeah.
She's
all right.
So
we will.
Yeah. Okay.
We will see folks on Thursday, starting at 12 Eastern, noon, and we're gonna go for 12 hours.
Yeah.
It's a good-a-thon. It's gonna be fun.
I'm getting my Snickers bars and ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be awesome. All right.
We'll see everybody then.
Yeah, attacked by yet another dog. All right.
Good luck out there, Doug.
Ridiculous. Yeah, Bye. Thanks. It's the wild.